For the past 2 years, I've clocked over 2,300 hours on one massive Minecraft project, recreating the fantasy world from a book I wrote back in college. Every video, I built a new city, and I thought I'd done it all. But here's the problem. Land, cave, more land, sky, guess what, more land. We've totally ignored the ocean. But that ends now. Today, I'm building this world's version of Atlantis. We're making a city that's entirely underwater, but it's probably not what you're expecting. Atlantis has been done, and I want to make something original. We're going to be making an entire city that lives underneath a gigantic underwater dome. First things first, we got to build the dome. That size looks pretty good. But this isn't just any dome. This is a special dome called a transmutation dome. If you've ever watched Full Metal Alchemist, you're probably familiar with the term transmutation circle. Basically, it's a magic circle that changes one material to another. You can think of this dome as a 3D transmutation circle that turns salt water into breathable oxygen. This is really important for this area because this city is a part of the Lorden Isles, a country that's entirely populated by advanced magical scientists called alchemists. Alchemy has unique symbols. They have other modern meanings, but they originated as alchemical symbols for the elements. What I'm building right now is basically an alchemical periodic table. Okay, I don't think that this is all of them, but it'll have to do. Now that the designs are done, I'll stack them so that they're about 10 blocks deep, then save the designs as blueprints. Using a plugin called Axiom, I can align the blueprints so that they're parallel to the dome's curve and embed them into the structure. Just like that. Then I'll just get rid of the blocks that are sticking out and these don't look right. Looks like I'm gonna have to clean them up by hand. Alright, symbols are clean. Let's finish up the rest of it. Okay, that took way longer than it should have, but I'm finally happy with the design. Now we just swap out the placeholder blocks for glass, add some lighting blocks, and boom, done. Let's whip up some terrain and paste this thing in. Before we do that, huge thanks to War Thunder for sponsoring this video. War Thunder is a large-scale, free-to-play multiplayer action game where you can choose your way to play, fighting tanks, planes, helicopters, and ships from the mid-20th century to the present that are accurate enough to impress any military enthusiast. Each vehicle has its own unique features, which can be upgraded and customized. I'm seriously impressed by the sheer scale of these battles, not to mention the graphics, sound, and physics. These elements work together to fully immerse the player. Look, it doesn't even have health bars. Damage accurately affects how a vehicle works. Whether you're on the front lines with the tank, supporting from a chopper, or just straight up dogfighting, War Thunder's got the best tech to help you out. Guided missiles, active protection systems, smoke screens, thermal vision, 2 types of drones, and a full-on nuke. Thanks to the new storm warning update, the game now supports ray tracing, has been optimized for PS5 Pro, and has 3 new advanced military vehicles. Test everything out on the new map Attica. Download War Thunder for free on PC, PlayStation, and Xbox by using the link in the description. All new players and those who haven't played War Thunder for half a year or more will receive special bonuses like a special decorator Eagle of Valor, 100,000 Silver Lions, and more. For mobile gamers, download and play War Thunder Mobile for free on iOS and Android by using the link in the description. Back to building. After using a basic Terrigen command to shape the ocean floor, I took a stab at recreating the sunken farlands from my last video. Despite being a few hours in, I scrapped the entire thing. I don't want to limit myself by putting all these obstacles around, so I'm just going to leave them out. Plus, I might be a bit claustrophobic. Alright, that looks pretty good. Let's head inside and start mapping things out. I'm going to kick it off with a transmutation circle smack dab in the center, surrounded by elevated walkways. Off to the sides, we'll be adding a bunch of towers and houses, but it's good to get a lay of the land first. Okay, sweet. I love the way it's looking. Now let's hop out of the terrain and sketch out the structures. I don't really have a style in mind for this city, which is a little bit of a problem.
Well, what about cyberpunk?
I try to give each area its own vibe, but honestly, the more I build, the harder it gets to keep them unique.
Cyberpunk would be unique.
So we're gonna go cyberpunk. Satisfied? Since I've never truly achieved the cyberpunk style successfully, I'm gonna need to workshop with a few different builds to iron out the style. For my first attempt, I tried to blend in a brownstone/Victorian style, but it just screams steampunk instead of cyberpunk. It looks cool, but it's not what I'm going for. Maybe I should build with Taco to learn how this style works. Right off the bat, I noticed how much more confident Taco was in this style. While I was spending a lot of time sitting back, looking, and thinking on my next step, Taco was already forging ahead and blasting through the build in record time. His energy was contagious. Eventually, I got into the rhythm and started to keep pace with him. And in just a single afternoon, we were able to knock out this awesome looking tower. I learned a lot today, but I'm gonna try and give this a shot on my own. I can't have Taco carry me the whole time. Not completely in love with it. Of the 3 I've made so far, this one's still my favorite. It doesn't really fit, but maybe it just needs some more love. Over the next few days, I revisited the smokestack tower, transforming it into the smokestack fortress with the help of my friend Painter. Even if it turns out to look a lot different than the style I settle with, I still want to include it. All I gotta do is justify it with lore. This was the original building of the area, founded by a pioneering group of alchemists. It's where they believed that they could discover the elixir of life. Now it serves more like a museum. Despite its stylistic differences, I absolutely love how it turned out. It might not perfectly align with the cyberpunk theme, but it's narratively rich and it looks good, so I'm keeping it. You can't stop me. I think I've hit a creative wall, so I'm going for something completely different this time around. I'm shifting gears to an East Asian inspired style, which is always a blast to work with. Although I've played around with this aesthetic in the past, I've never really mixed it up with the sleek, high-tech vibes of cyberpunk. To really nail the look, I'm bringing in my buddy Juno, who's got a knack for this style. He's gonna help guide the build and make sure it comes out alright. Okay, check this out. This looks amazing. This fusion of traditional Asian and cyberpunk, it just stands out. Now that I know that we're headed into a Japanese direction, I finally know what to call this area. Suijin City. Don't knock my pronunciation on that, okay? I tried my best. I looked it up on Google Translate and everything.
수이진.
Now that we have the style, it's time to see if I can recreate that magic solo. At the time, I had the perfect chance to workshop the bakery's 24-hour build event. For some context, I built on a Minecraft server with my friends called The Bakery. At this point in the project, we were gearing up for the holiday event calendar, where we have a bunch of crazy events like hub decoration, ice boat racing, and build competitions. After I finished this build with Juno, there was an event called the 24-Hour Build Collab. It's a 24-hour period where hundreds of builders all work together on a single project. We're all given a plot to build anything we want, so this is the perfect opportunity for me to experiment with the style on my own. If you want to join in on stuff like this, our Minecraft server IP and Discord server are in the description. It's free to play, so if you're interested in creative building, it's one of the best spots out there. Okay, a day later, and I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. It's not quite on par with our previous works, but I did have a lot more limitations like time and space on this one. Check out the rest of the build too. I can't believe how many talented builders there are over here. Even with the limitations, this build was a great step in pushing my boundaries. But I want to keep experimenting with the style and learn from another builder friend of mine. Snarple's been in a few of my videos before, but I don't think he's gotten a proper showcase. Don't tell him I said this, but he's actually one of the builders I really respect.
Whoa, why wouldn't you want me to hear that? That's so nice.
Well, cause we're friends, I'd never hear the end of it.
Aw, bud. Yeah, that's probably true though. Hey guys, Shovel said he respects me. You wanna come laugh at him? What a nerd.
I knew it. Although he's an incredible builder, building alongside Snarple is a challenge, to put it mildly. As a builder, he's way out of my league, which usually makes me feel like I'm just trying to keep up. Our styles couldn't be more different. I tend to break my projects down into shaping, texturing, and detailing, which is efficient, but it can make all of my builds feel a bit cookie cutter. But Snarple, he takes a meticulous one piece at a time approach, perfecting each segment before moving on. His method yields incredibly distinct results that just stand out. It's tough trying to match his pace and precision, but adopting his technique might just be what I need to evolve my own skills. After a couple days of working on the build, I was able to learn from his technique and we managed to crank out a pretty awesome structure. This is actually pretty crazy. Okay, we've made a few test buildings, but now that we've nailed down the style, it's time to tackle the big guns, the 3 main towers of this city, each being a hub for a different faction within the city. The first tower is the stronghold of the Transmuter Guild, the heartbeat of Suijin City. The Transmuter Guild is where the most talented alchemists work, blending science and magic with one goal, to create the Philosopher's Stone and unlock the elixir of life. They're not there yet, but their efforts have already transformed the locals into evolved versions of humans. When looking at a Nier, they're almost indistinguishable from a regular human. The main difference is a longer lifespan and their ability to morph phenological traits to their environment. For example, in water, they sprout gills and they have webbed feet and hands. Underground, they gain night vision and a smaller, bulkier frame. I'm brainstorming ideas for the Earth and Fire Nier next, so if you have any ideas, please leave them in the comments below. I had a ton of great comments that got me going on this project, so huge thanks to all you guys that gave me the ideas. feeling a lot more confident this go around. Turns out, I've got a bit of a knack for the mechanical bits in my builds, probably thanks to my time in Brassholt last year. What I love about this method is its sheer efficiency. I whip up a design, and if it clicks, I save it off to the side as a reusable asset. The more I do it, the larger the library becomes. I used to think that I invented this technique, but no, I wasn't the first. It's actually known as greebling or kit bashing, terms George Lucas coined to describe decking out spaceships with all those weird details. So yeah, it turns out it's a way bigger deal than just Minecraft. Okay, that took a few days, but Snarple and I managed to make an awesome looking tower. This is probably my favorite one yet, but the outside is only half the battle. Let's go inside and give it some life. This structure is going to be split into 2 levels, the Siren Archives and the Philosopher's Forge. Starting on the lower level, the Siren Archives isn't just any library. It's a treasure trove of the most advanced alchemy knowledge in the world. This library is the culmination of over 400 years of research. Once I got the basic layout set, I handed the reins over to my buddy Rail. He's a lot better at some of the finer details than I am, so having him do a pass over the room elevates it substantially. Unfortunately, he has a bad habit of forgetting to record.
Sorry.
Just hit the button next time, dude.
Maybe a few dollars will help me remember next time.
A few rooms might be shy on footage, but Rail still transformed the space. Okay, looks like he added a central checkout desk and a book return. Oh, whoa, check out these lanterns. I never thought of using banners like this. That's really smart. Okay, now that the library's done, we can move up to the forge. The second half of this tower is home to the Philosopher's Forge. This room's dedicated to the crafting and study of alchemical items and substances. It combines elements of a traditional forge with high-tech laboratories. The interior is a maze of forges, crucibles, and state-of-the-art alchemy instruments, all powered by magical energy. I spent a lot of time trying to blend all of the elements of the Asian architecture with alchemical symbols, all while making it feel industrial and functional. It's a tall order, but I think I made it work. At the heart of the room is the forge itself, a high-powered transmutation circle topped with a swirling conduit of magical energy. This isn't just any device, it's the ultimate tool for turning mundane materials into gold, or any precious mineral you can think of. Around the edges, Rail decked out the space with workstations, chalkboards, and piles of essential reactants that alchemists use to work their magic. They've even got mini labs growing rare ingredients right on site. Alright, with those interiors done, this tower is looking awesome. 1 down, 2 to go. Wherever there's people, there's bound to be a little drama, and Suijin City is no different. So, the second tower is for the Tidekeepers, the city's own peacekeeping and security squad. They have 2 main jobs, peacekeeping and maintaining the transmutation dome. Since they have a range of jobs they do, we're going to spread this faction over 2 buildings. This one's going to be devoted to the military side. Dome management is going to be located in another structure, and the HQ is going to be a bit smaller. That being said, it's still massive. Normally, builds in my videos take about a month, but this entire project took me over 2. But, I mean, just look at the scale. If you compare these to my biggest build, I mean, just look at it. Just one of these is almost as big as the palace itself. Boom, done. Rail's gonna fly solo on the interior for this one, but he's gonna be following my specs. Tidekeeper HQ is going to be split into 3 main floors. Floor 1 is the study room. Even though these guys are primarily guards, Suijin City values education and intelligence above all else. Every Tidekeeper is given rigorous education to promote swift and unbiased decision making in high pressure situations. On floor 2, we're putting a dojo. As peacekeepers and guards, each member of this faction is required to be a high-level martial artist to continue service. Finally, level 3 is home to the barracks. These are the main living quarters of the Tidekeepers, complete with communal eating areas. Off to the sides are bedrooms, with bunks that are able to fold into couches and tables. Okay, sweet. The second main tower's done, and I'm loving the way that it looks. Rail did a great job with these interiors, and Snarple went absolutely nuts with some of the details on the outside. It's not exactly survival friendly, but man, it looks good. Alright, Tower 3, the House of Fortune. I decided to take on the majority of the work for this last tower. Snarple and Taco both stepped in and added their own unique touch to the build, but this one was mainly for me to practice applying my new knowledge. I'll start by getting some of the bold shapes down like how I learned building with Juno. Once I've established the main scale, I'll apply the Snarple method, go to one spot and working on it until I'm satisfied. Okay, it's looking pretty good, but I'm noticing it's taking me way longer to do. But that's okay. I'm growing. If you want to download any of these builds, the full city, or the rest of my builds, you can get them on my Patreon. I try to make it worth it, and you can cancel it instantly after you get your downloads, so there's no pressure to stick around. Contrary to popular belief, most YouTubers aren't millionaires. If it weren't for my patrons, I literally couldn't afford to keep doing this. I want to make these videos as good as I possibly can for you guys, and my patrons allow me that opportunity. So thank you. You're the only way I can do this. I really love this design on the central circle. I try to make it look like one of those carved wooden windows in a lot of traditional Chinese architecture, and I think it turned out great. Okay, let's go inside and finish this one up. This tower is home to the final faction, the House of Fortune. It's probably the one I'm most excited about. Let me explain. The whole point of making an underwater city was to find a way to synthesize the Philosopher's Stone, right? Well, that takes research. Research takes time, resources, and a lot of money. Alchemy ain't cheap, and at the bottom of the ocean, resources are scarce. So, how do you fund high-stakes magical research with no goods or services to offer? Simple. You trick a bunch of idiots into giving you money. Welcome to the House of Fortune, the greatest casino in the world. The House of Fortune isn't just another faction, it's the beating heart of the city's economy. Their mission? To fund the transmuter skills research by drawing in tourists and creating a booming hospitality scene. Of course, their crowning jewel is the House of Fortune Casino. And kids who are watching, gambling's bad. Smart people know that the house always wins. Seriously, don't throw your money away. Support my Patreon instead. Okay, that's pretty good for the first level, but this is just the lobby. The main casino is so big that we can't fit it all in one level, so they'll be split between floors 2 and 3. The first level is going to be more of your standard casino floor. Slot machines, table games, yada yada yada. I could just put down some green wool and turn them into tables, but that's a little lame. I have a way where we can make pretty much any design and put it on a block. It's pretty easy too. First, I'm going to design my own fantasy craps table in a photo editor. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Now I can save the image, convert it into a schematic using an online converter, and format it to Minecraft's map size. Then I go in game and lay out 8 128 wide squares next to one another and mark their center points. Once I paste in the schematic overhead, I stand on the center points of each square, create the map, and put it in an item frame. And boom! That looks awesome. Using that same method, I did the same thing for blackjack, slots, roulette, and poker tables. Alright, let's get these pasted in. Okay, we finished up this level and I'm loving it. Taco swung by to add some bars and a cashier counter, and that really tied the room together. Oh, and the vault? Genius touch. This looks great, but compared to the floor above, this is the casino equivalent to the kids' table. Don't gamble, kids. Level 3 is where the House of Fortune really turns it up a notch and earns its title as the greatest casino of this world. All the conventional table games from below get a huge upgrade into their magical versions. The craps table is now a huge upright gemstone that interacts with the dice, amplifying or dampening the effects based on the alignment of runes at the time of the roll. Magic Roulette has its own little spin. The roulette ball is a shape-shifting enchanted orb cycling through gold, silver, and crystal. Here, a little bit of spell work lets you gently push the odds, making the game a blend of luck and subtle skill. Alright, these are looking awesome. Once I set up the main attractions, I also made a bar area off to the side and peppered in some smaller gambling tables from downstairs to round out the space. Rail wasn't thrilled with the bar's initial look, so he went through and did a full revamp. Whoa, I'm blown away by how this level turned out. It's big, colorful, and it really feels like a glamorous, larger-than-life attraction. And Rail knocked it out of the park with the decorations. I love the way that he incorporated the banner designs to highlight the Eastern theme. Okay, on to the last level. Every elite casino has an exclusive zone where the high rollers go. It's not just posh, it's intense. Because this isn't normal poker. No, it's not. Each chip is charged with alchemical energy, offering power-ups or debuffs, turning every hand into a gamble. After getting in the walls and the poker tables, I went up above and added an elevated bar area, with glass looking down to the bottom floor. Though, now that I think about it, that could pose some problems with cheating. Ah well, it'll make games interesting, I guess. Rail came through and polished it off, and with that, the casino was complete. Nice. Okay, I think this is the most fun I've ever had with an interior. I put a lot of thought into this thing, and it's awesome to see the final result. With that, it looks like we're done with the 3 main towers. There's still the Tidekeeper's secondary building, but that's a challenge for another day. For now, let's plop these into the dome. Hey dude, I think the scale's off on this one. You know, they've got to be able to fit inside the dome.
What? You're saying they're too big?
Yeah, I'm saying they're too big.
Nah, I don't think they're too big. You're overthinking it.
Okay.
This work telling me I'm doing too much. I'm helping out too much. Who does this guy think he is?
Yeah, they're too big. The bills are just too massive for these walkways, so I've got to rip them out and make room. I'll stash the design just in case, but it's easier to just take out the walkways entirely. Okay, the buildings are in, but they're kind of overpowering each other. I want to make sure that there's a focal point. Looks like it's back to the drawing board for one more major build. Trust me, it's gonna be worth it. To make this build stand out, we've got to mix up the shape, the color, or both. I think changing the palette would be too big a swing, so we're going to change the shape instead by building a torii gate. Even if you don't know the name, I'm sure you at least know what a torii gate looks like. Put very basically, they're believed to be a sacred boundary that divides the realm of the humans and the realm of the gods. For the locals who are practically the next evolution of humanity, it's a symbol of their elite status. As you might have guessed, this torii gate is going to be the second part of the Tidekeeper faction. Remember, these guys had 2 main jobs, peacekeeping and maintaining the transmutation dome barrier. This gate is the thing that keeps the whole dome running, a magical power plant. Okay, sweet. This thing's looking awesome. Let's get these pasted into the dome. After months, I'm finally happy with this composition. But it got me thinking, how does this thing produce power? The transmutation dome doesn't just look cool. It's an incredibly ancient, powerful spell that makes life at the bottom of the ocean possible. Since this is alchemy magic, you can almost look at its function as a chemical reaction rather than a spell. It splits the ever-present salt water into hydrogen, salt, and breathable oxygen. The oxygen is then filtered down into the city, creating a livable atmosphere. Salt, being a basic building block in a lot of chemical compounds, is either used by the Transmutation Guild or sent back into the ocean. The hydrogen is then converted into fuel cells used to power all of the city and maintain the transmutation dome's integrity. Hey, you guys still with me? Don't worry, no more chemistry in this video, I promise. Let's go inside and build the power plant. After getting the walls in place with my greeble assets that I cooked up on the main tower, I started work on the central chamber. These pipes and tanks are full of pure hydrogen, which is then converted into usable energy and transported down to street level through cables on each side of the gate. This will lead down to power lines that run throughout the entire city. But I'm getting ahead of myself. We've still got to do stuff on the outside of the build. These towers look great, but because they're all the same size, you can't really tell how big they are. I need more buildings, especially smaller ones. After grinding away at those towers all December, I'm speeding things up for these smaller houses. I'm ripping apart some of my mid-sized towers, like the ones that I built with Juno and Taco, to whip up some quick and easy townhouses. And just like that, boom, we've already got a bunch of new structures ready in no time. I've maxed out what I can pull from the existing designs, but it's still not enough. Looks like I have to build another one from scratch. Wow, looking at it now, I can barely believe I made this. I've grown tons in just a few weeks. But we're not done yet. Time to break it down and whip up some more houses. We're gonna have to make some more. Taco jumped in this round to help. Having his style present will make the assets from this one differ from the others that are already in the build. There we go, that house is looking pretty good, but I'm so ready to move on, feels like it's been an eternity. Maybe I'm going a little overboard with the house count, but I want to make sure I have more than I need. So many houses. This is ridiculous, I'm a YouTuber, not Larian Studios. Okay, let's go paste these in. Phew. Adding those small buildings really made the towers pop. It's starting to look less like a project and feel more like a real city. It looks so good except for the fact that it's stupid and ugly and I hate it. The dome's too small. Come on guys, let's go flush another 2 weeks of my life down the toilet. Yeah, maybe I'd retain a bit of my sanity by not going bigger, but man, really seems like a missed opportunity. We've come this far, and good enough isn't gonna cut it. Alright, I just scaled up the dome, and it's looking pretty solid. Super carefully, we're gonna take down the old dome, and pop the new one right in place. I don't have a backup, so fingers crossed nothing goes sideways. And... oh, that actually looks awesome. Nice. Next up, we'll stretch it down to the ground, add some stained glass and light blocks, and voila. Super glad I made this move. Now it looks like a city under a dome instead of a snow globe. There's a bunch more room to fill in though, so I'm gonna get cracking on that. Those new houses really transformed the space. Now that the dome's so big, a public transportation system would make everyone's life a lot easier. So, around the dome, a couple of high-speed bullet tram lines will zip along, one running clockwise and the other counterclockwise. Perfect for anyone living on the dome's edge, these trams make getting around quick and easy. Now it's time for the fun part, the tram cars. The total length of this lower track is pretty much a full mile. At full speed without stops, this tram car can finish a lap in less than a minute, making it one of the most efficient ways to get through the city. After Taco and I finished the base model, I went over and adapted it into a diagonal design. Since this track is circular, it would be strange to only see them on 90-degree angles. Now, the trams will glide smoothly around every curve. While I was off doing that, Taco added in some elevators and stairs to get up to the stations. And with that, the tram system was complete. Nice. But this isn't the only way of travel. Suijin City is open to personal vehicles too. So let's get started on that. Let's face it, building a decent car in Minecraft is no joke. It's tough, especially at Minecraft's scale. But the good news is Taco's a master with vehicle designs. He rolled up with a whole garage of blueprints, giving us the perfect springboard to create our own fleet of flying cars. In no time, we had a parking garage's worth ready to go. But we're not just settling for vanilla cars that just fill space. So we gotta make sure that our vehicles aren't just for show. Even underwater cities like this have taxis. Thanks to rideshares like Scuba, they're a rare sight, but they're here. Once I'm happy with that design, I can adapt it into a police car and a couple of civilian vehicles. I like to think of this one as a cyberpunk sedan. Okay, this one's my personal favorite. Look at this fire truck. It turned out incredible. We built a lot of them. If we went into detail on every one, I think we'd be here till next week. So, montage. After a couple days of building, we had a huge library of vehicles to work with. This is insane. I'm really proud of these food trucks especially. I think the pizza one's my favorite. Before we paste these in, we should get some of the smaller street deco done first. It'll make things easier so we don't have to work around the cars. Building a city is a mammoth task, and seeing it take shape is incredibly rewarding. This project's stretching forever, but that's because my standards are just that much higher. I used to be content with quaint villages, remember? But if I don't push myself, it's not going to evolve. Alright, all these assets are looking awesome. Let's dive right in and lay down the basics. Power lines and streetlights are up first. Okay, that looks pretty good. From above, it's starting to look like a real city. But street level, still feels like a ghost town. Let's fix that. How do you give a build life? It's not just about adding in more stuff. It's about layering. For instance, those power lines and streetlights, those add depth, and each layer draws you deeper into the scene. But we can't stop there. Sure, there's the obvious stuff like trash cans, streets, crosswalks, but we can go further by making each area unique. Downtown is bustling by the gates and the towers, while the east and west feel more like cozy neighborhoods. So let's start with those. The eastern and western areas are populated more with the smaller houses, so I want this to feel more like a neighborhood than a city. This is kind of where the normal people live. These areas might be quieter, but they're not dead. I spent an entire afternoon on this intersection, and the time was well spent. Look how alive it is. I think my favorite part's the crosswalks. I know it's simple, but they ground everything and make it all feel a lot more real. After that, I went into the center strip and added cars, detailed out these bare walls, and detailed another intersection. From there, it was onto the western area, which gave me a lot more difficulty. The hardest part about this strip is the fact that it's diagonal. I try my best to avoid building on anything other than a 90 degree, but we need some variety here. I went off and made some diagonal vehicles, and those worked pretty well. I know this video took a while, but that's because this city is the most diverse and complete build I've ever made. All my other builds, while I am quite fond of them, they're pretty much a centerpiece and a village around it. It's great, but I want this to feel incredibly immersive, like a real city, and I can tell how much the extra effort pays off. Just walking around here feels like I'm actually in a game like Cyberpunk. Okay, enough jibber jabber, let's get to the downtown area. The south and central areas of the city are a lot more populated with businesses and attractions. This is where the casinos, clubs, and recreation are. As such, the decorations here are gonna look a little different than they did in the residential districts. There's still houses here, but I think that it'll be more of an artsy-fartsy hipster type area. Like, I'll make a food truck over here with a bunch of string lights overhead. Nice. Reminds me of Portland. And since there isn't room for driveways around here, street parking and parking lots are gonna pop up a lot more. I even added in little handicap spots and parking meters. That reads, right? Finally, the downtown area has a lot more equity and activity, so that means that public services are going to be stationed in this area. Things like garbage truck lots, a police station, and even a fire station. Man, I really want to do an interior for this one, but think I'd be working on this for another 3 days. Pick your battle, Shovel. This is where the build really started to feel complete for me. After 80 days on this project, I was ready to step back and experience it in its entirety. This is hands down my best build yet. It pushed me to my limits, but the results, I mean, they speak for themselves. But I couldn't have done it alone. Huge thanks to Snarple, Taco, Rail, and Juno for giving me a hand in this build. Make sure you go check out their links in the description. Thanks for watching.